Math fads are leaving students with the wrong answers. That's according to my next guest, who's completed an audit of university courses for teachers. Glenn Fahey from the Centre for Independent Studies says aspiring maths teachers are being taught to incorporate crazes such as student-led learning and classroom games in their teaching. And it's a real contributor to our nation's decline in the subject. For more on this, Glenn Fahey joins me now. I've got to correct myself there. I said math. That's American. I mean maths. I don't like that creeping into my speech. These education fads, Glenn, they're a big reason why students are really struggling, particularly in maths. If the teacher's not good, maths is hard to say the least. Why are we letting it go this way?
Well, this is what's happened, Peter, is that teachers are now educated primarily by university educators, not experienced, effective practicing teachers. And as it turns out, education academics heavily weigh on the idea of a constructivist view of student learning. What that's all about is that students should ultimately guide their own learning. A teacher then is just the guide by the side. And what that means is that because students ultimately are required to find their own meaning, their own way toward answers, they tend to preference for a teacher to have a lesser role in the classroom. And that's not just an academic issue. The results are quite clear. If Australian students mostly had teacher-led instruction and only a small amount of student instruction, they'd be 10 months ahead of where they currently are by the age of 15. But the truth is, teachers now are very unlikely to have the skills to deliver teacher-led instruction effectively, because out of 31 universities that we examined, virtually all of them preference a constructivist student-led perspective.
All right, we'll get into some of this jargon in a minute, but where are we in the world rankings on maths?
Well, in 2003, we were among the world's best. We're now around the middle of the pack. So it's a significant drop in a relative standard compared to the rest of the world. But what alarms me the most is how far we've declined compared to our own. Compared to an Australian student in 2003, today's students are around 14 months behind in maths. And now around half of students actually meet our own proficiency standard at the age of 15. So we're falling behind compared to the rest of the world, but also compared to ourselves. And it's no coincidence that the decline that I described in that trend also coincides with the changing preferences of teaching maths in the classroom.
Well, I get maybe a component of student-led learning if they're able to pick up a book and discuss the themes of the book maybe, or do a few experiments and practice some chemistry. But maths is a teacher-led subject. I mean, there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer, particularly in the junior class levels. How on earth can we get this so wrong? I mean, if it's showing up in the rankings, if we're falling fast and it's because we're going the way of students teaching themselves, well, why not go back to when we were doing better when teachers taught the class?
Well, it seems easy and obvious to us, but because so many teachers have now come through their training under this new approach, very few teachers are actually confident in delivering a lesson of explicit instruction with a teacher leading the teaching. So many are now only practiced in providing that more facilitative approach. And part of it is
hang on, so you mean
as well.
Sorry, Glenn, just to jump in there. So you're saying that the teachers are not across the maths curriculum themselves?
Not so much the curriculum, but the practices that are actually effective in the classroom. Because so many have only been trained in one way of teaching, that's the only way that they're competent and confident in delivering. And you can see this in some of the professional learning that's available to teachers. So many flock to the available courses because they want to find new and better ways to be effective in the classroom. Of course, those new and better ways are actually the old ways we used to teach. But so many teachers today simply don't have the skills to do it, because when they get trained by their university educators, they're really only taught to how to teach in that facilitative, student-led style.
All right, I've got to leave it there. We'll come back to this, I'm sure, between now and the election. Glenn Fahey, thank you for your time. Thank you for your hard work on this issue. Glenn there from the Centre for Independent Studies. And you say, the government's looking for a platform to run an election on. Forget all the other rubbish. Back to basics on education. It is a no-brainer.